back to this week's Real Estate Producer Show. I'm Kara, and I'm here with Joe Cubera from Remax Nexus and Mike from Hall Financial.
Joe, welcome to the show.
Thanks, guys.
Yes,
nice
welcome.
To be here.
We're so excited. I know that you work so closely with Hall Financial, so we're super excited to finally have you on and chat about what's happening in your world. But first off, tell me, so how did you get into real estate?
You know, I had always been in sales, and I'd always been in some sort of sales where it wasn't something that I could, sell to my network or people that I knew, and I just felt like it would be an easier transition to do something that I could, when I talked about it, people knew what I was talking about. I used to sell stuff and nobody knew what I was talking about.
Yeah.
And then I just made that transition to residential homes, and it's been great. And so it was 2015. So 6 years later, here I am and haven't looked back.
Nice. Okay, so 6 years later, what makes you stay in real estate? What do you love about it?
It's exciting. I mean, I love working for myself, setting my own schedule, but there's also a part of it that's sort of like, especially now, you're winning. You can go out there, you're going up against a couple other buyer's agents, and there's that thrill when you get it, when you win. It's exciting.
Yeah, so nicely put. You like the competition of it.
I like it, yeah. I like
That's
competing.
awesome.
I like getting out there, and like I said, there's that thrill when you win one. Just can't be beat.
Absolutely.
Well, Joe, we also know you're also all about 5-star reviews, just like we are at Hall Financial. I mean, our passion is providing 5-star service for all the clients at Hall Financial. But I wanted to read a couple of your reviews back to you.
Sure.
And this one is, I'm from California and didn't know the area at all. Joe was happy to take the time to explain the ins and outs of every different city in the area. And then this is another one. He's always available and happy to answer every question I had. He guided us through the entire process with ease and even helped connect us with a lender. So thank you for that. But why is that feedback so important to you?
Well, the feedback's important because we are in the service business, and truthfully, your business can grow, by those happy customers telling other happy customers. And then I just think that you want to make sure you're giving these people a good experience. It's something that we do, I don't know how many times a month, but usually a person, maybe they only buy or sell a home once every 7 to 10 years. So you want to make sure they have a great experience and that they're beyond thrilled, and that's just how I've always sold.
Do you want to tell the story you told us before the show of how you got a 4-star review once?
4.5.
4.5. If you dig through there, I think I have one 4.5-star review because my friend filled it out and I got it back. And they said, hey, it was a close friend. I said, what happened? He goes, I feel like if I gave it all 5s, nobody would believe me. But he's like, trust me, it was 5 stars.
Yeah, but they can believe it.
Right? Yeah.
So if anyone out there sees a 4.5 star, it was actually a 5-star review.
Yeah.
So just
yeah.
don't even worry about that 0.5 aspect of it. But I think that's awesome, and I think that's incredible, especially hearing from clients that are not from the area. And I know that you grew up in the Metro Detroit area, so I have a lot of knowledge on that. And so you help your clients, even if they're from here, even you might be moving 5 miles down the road, but might not know the newer spots around there or whatever it may be. And I think it's really cool to hear from someone that didn't know the area at all and had such a wonderful experience, and you were able to help them out. I think that's awesome.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. So going back a little bit, I know that you had mentioned now, and we all know that this time, the last couple of years within the real estate market has been crazy, super competitive, and clients really had to move super quickly, sometimes within hours, to put in offers. And with that being said, do you think that clients may have rushed into homes that they weren't in love with? Some clients didn't even see the house, or they only toured it once. So what would you say? Do you think that clients maybe are not in love with the houses that they're in now?
I don't know if they're not in love with them. I think you have less time to think on it. I think back to 2016, 17, and you'd go see the house, you'd sleep on it, you come back the next day, maybe they'd bring their parents. You don't have a lot of time, and I am a big believer in if you like it, you need to act fast. I still think speed is important. But I think, to counter that, I tell people, look earlier. if you tell yourself you're going to buy a house in this summer, start looking now and look at those ones where there's no pressure to put in an offer. So at least by the time that moment to put in offers is there, you know what you do and what's also important, what you don't like.
That's huge, and that's really good advice to be able to, find the pros and cons of a home so that you can narrow down your search and really get serious when you're ready to get pre-approved and really start that home search as well. That's awesome.
So yeah, tell us a story of a recent closing that, an exciting story that something's happened recently.
I guess if I have to go back, I mean, I have, I've had a lot of friends move back. They've been out of town. They've been in Chicago. They've been other places. And so I have a lot of them moving back. And one of my last closings, it was a combination of they would fly up for a weekend and I'd show them 15 houses in a day. And then they'd fly back. They were in Texas. And then they'd see one at Tuesday at 10 a.m. and I'd go see it by myself.
Oh.
And I'd be FaceTiming them through the house. And then another one would pop up and I'd take his mom through it. It was a really unconventional showing process. We got under contract on one, and the inspection just did not go well. I mean, roof, siding was rotting. It looked super pretty. It was hard to believe how bad the inspection actually went. We got out of that one. We finally found another one, and it was just a perfect match between buyer and seller. And then we closed last month, and he's telling me that him and the seller are still texting. Not always about the house, but just other stuff.
Oh,
and,
nice.
And it was just kind of like a great match, and that was one of my favorite closings.
But Joe,
Oh.
that's why you never waive inspection, right? No matter how pretty it looks. And
Yeah.
I've only had customers do that maybe one or two times. You don't know. I mean, this was a gorgeous home, and from the outside you would think, wow, like there's no way, but just little things. Dishwasher didn't work. It was a double ovens and only one of the ovens worked. I mean, it wasn't stuff that we would know from going through your showing, but when you get an inspector in there and they start, the guy he was there. It was a long inspection. He had a lot to write up.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's huge, and I think that's really cool to be able to hear that you really dove in with that client, even if they weren't a friend of yours. I know that you would have done that for any client of
Absolutely.
yours to help them find that perfect home. And even, it's unfortunate when circumstances like a failed inspection happens, but it's about the recovery and then finding the next home, because there will always be another home. And I think it's awesome to hear that they're in the house, they're moved in and everything.
Not yet.
Not
yet? Yeah, that's one of the things he told me. He just made a deal with the seller. They needed an extra week, so he texted me and said, "Hey, I made this deal." I said, "Well, we got to get it on paper. Don't just shake hands on things." So
See, you're getting right to business. I love it.
But I said that's good that you guys are on good terms. So they're going to give the seller a little bit more time to move out, and then I think some first week of the new year they'll be able to get in there with the keys.
Well, nice. That's awesome. Well, congratulations to you
Yeah.
too. That's awesome.
Okay, so Joe, what would you say to a seller or a buyer that's looking at for sale by owners versus somebody that's listed with an agent?
I look at it a couple of ways. I mean, sometimes for sale by owners are willing to work with a buyer's agent, which is always the best because, again, like I said, usually people only buy or sell for themselves once every 7 to 10 years. And I've done that before. They don't know, maybe they don't have a title company lined up. They don't know what questions to ask the lender. They don't know these things. So I would say, be cautious. And I would say, since they don't have professionals on their side, try to get as many on your side just to help guide the transaction. We've done many successful where I've represented the buyer and it was a for sale by owner. And I'll never forget my favorite one. She accepted the offer and then the seller called me and she said, "What do I do now?" And I said, "Well, you were going to sell your home. Don't you have what was your plan?" She's like, "I don't know. I just know what price I wanted, and I got it, and I signed your offer. What's next?" So I said, "Well, why don't I walk you through what I would tell you if I was your agent?" And kind of ended up doing both sides on that one, just to help her out and to make sure my client got the home. I mean, that was really the most important thing. But I would just say be cautious and get as many professionals, the lenders, the title companies, and all of that involved just to help guide it, because they may not know what the next step is or what the appropriate step is or what the contract says and what they should be doing. Again, we do this how many times a month, they do it once every 7 to 10 years.
And like
Yeah.
you said, on the listing side, I know there's a lot of statistics and articles written about it, but people don't believe it, that a lot of money is left on the table by sellers that try and sell or that do sell them their house by themselves instead of using a professional.
Absolutely. Sometimes they can get a little bit more, but more often than not, what we've seen is that that they are listing a little bit lower, or at least through the remaining negotiations, whether it's appraisal or inspection, they're not. So they don't always get the most for it. And truthfully, I think it's a little bit more difficult. And like I said, being on the other side, they're asking me questions that I know if they had an agent, they wouldn't be asking, or they'd at least have somebody to call, with those questions.
Yeah, absolutely. And lastly, just to wrap it up here too, I know that you kind of going back to everything that was mentioned on this show about giving your clients that great experience, really catering to them and their needs, whether it's FaceTime or walking their mom through a showing, whatever it is. But why is knowing a client, even if they're not originally a friend of yours, but why is knowing a client so important and getting to know them so important to finding them a home?
Because, the interesting thing about buying a home is, for a lot of people, it is their biggest investment. And you always hear people when they're talking about investments in general not be emotional. It's near impossible to not be emotional. This is you have to get to know them so that you can understand. When it's that house, you can see that look in their eye, and I'm like, all right, they're onto this one. Or when they walk in and they look at you like, we can leave. It's not the one. So you've got to get to know them on a personal level, because we are doing a little bit of emotional buying, and then it's our job to kind of bring them back, show them, the real portion of the deal, and see if we can balance those two. So you have to know them so that you can help consult them in this transaction.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's huge. And I think that working with not only a professional and a realtor like yourself to help guide them through that process is huge. And I know at Hall Financial, they have the same type of mentality as well, as getting to know your clients and seeing what works for them and their goals all goes into what seems like a very transactional thing to some people is actually, like you said, a very emotional an emotional thing in their life too. So I think that's huge and that's awesome. So any closing thoughts or anything at all for our audience out there?
No, nothing to close. This has been great. Hall Financial, you guys have been fantastic. The last year getting to know you guys has been great. I'm just end on that. It's going to be a good year. 2022 is going to be a strong year, and start looking early.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And again, if you see a 4.5 star, it's not it's not true. It's not genuine. It was 5-star all the way. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Thanks for joining us, Mike. And as always, feel free to like and subscribe.